3, 2, 1, watch me. Level up, 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 level up. All this on me so young.
That feels appropriate this morning, although you may not feel like dancing when you roll up on some of these closures that are going to stick around for a little while. We're going to check in with our Anna Chalker, who has given us the update there on that Level Up 31 project in just a bit. So you're looking at 465 and US 31, where that phase 3 is expected to start. It's officially underway, so we'll let you know what that means for you soon.
You know, I drive it every day, and it's like this. It's like, what do I expect today?
Yeah.
And yesterday, that was one of the days because they switched over a lane. And you just have to figure it out. You just have to be like, okay, where's it going to
And
go?
we have seen some of the fender benders in that too, but we've got you covered. We'll check in with Anna Chalker in just a bit. In the meantime, you may not have seen the fog in that close-up shot, but it is out there this morning, Matt.
Yeah, especially south of Indy. So that shot is north of Indy. But we're going to level up our weather in the next several days. Yeah, good. You're going to love this weather coming up. We have some 70s, a couple low 80s, low humidity, lots of sun, but we do have some of the patchy fog out there this morning. In fact, when you're looking from the Speedway towards downtown, you can see the fog that's hovering out there and the tops of our skyscrapers poking on through. Most of the fog is kind of on the south and east sides, and you can tell that because this camera is situated looking east. And of course, the Speedway is on the west side. So you're looking east and you can see some more of that fog out there this morning as temperatures are holding in the 50s and 60s. Dense fog advisories are out there as well. They go until 9 o'clock. So still 3 more hours. And then it's hard not to notice the neon green color showing you some flood warnings along some of our rivers after we picked upwards to 3 inches in some spots yesterday with those on and off scattered showers, downpours, and even a few thunderstorms. Now this morning, we had the fog because of the rainfall yesterday. It came on down, and some places it wasn't a lot, but in other places we got soaked, and now the ground's wet. There's a lot of extra humidity because there's water out there, and we're using that humidity to create some fog. And we're down to a quarter mile in Richmond, Shelbyville, less than a quarter mile in Bedford, down almost nothing, half mile or so in Bloomington, Greencastle, Terre Haute. Most of the fog around Indy is on the east side and south sides of Marion County. Temperatures, though, they're comfortable. A lot of 50s and 60s this morning. It's 62 in Gas City, same in Muncie. It's 57 in Newcastle and out towards Connorsville. Here in Indianapolis, it's 61. At a bad start in Zionsville, 63, and more 60s farther to the south is 61 around Bloomington. Couple high clouds, but other than that, we have high pressure that's going to keep us dry. We'll let you know when our next chance of rain may possibly be. But let's talk traffic this morning and headed out the door. Some improvement already with the crash we did have on I-70 in the eastbound direction just past the Monrovia exit or State Road 39. You can see traffic looks like it's now flowing all right. This is a construction zone, and at times you go down to 1 lane, but about 20 minutes ago, we had a crash, and it's already been mainly cleared up, so it looks like traffic's moving fine again, which is good news. Here's a closer view. I know it's tough to see because of the fog this morning. We also have some of that fog in Bartholomew County. Good morning, Columbus. It is a foggy start. Julia?
Thank you, Matt. Well, developing this morning, the Grant County Sheriff's Office is investigating after a burned body was discovered inside a vehicle there.
911 dispatchers got an OnStar alert around 5:30 yesterday morning. They arrived at that vehicle's location on an isolated lane near East County Road 852 South and saw that vehicle up in flames. Once the fire was out, they say that's when they found human remains in the driver's seat.
And those remains have not yet been identified, but the vehicle, we know, was registered to someone out of Texas. The sheriff's office says no other details are being released right now because it is just too early in the investigation. Well, a debate over transparency and safety is gaining some momentum at the City-County building.
Because there's an ethics proposal that's moving forward and raising some big questions about how much personal information for public officials should be shared publicly. Marina Silva is following the fallout after councilors just approved this new measure last night. Good morning, Marina.
Good morning. Well, while that proposal is now headed to the full council, like you said, there is still some pushback. Not everybody is on board. Now, the Ethics Committee voted 4-1 to pass this to the full council during last night's meeting. Now, if approved, it would stop council members from having to disclose home and business information publicly. The conversation at the meeting toggled between transparency and what's simply doing the job.
People want to be able to serve, and if they're threatened, then that is something that would deter some folks. And I think there's some really good leaders out there that may not run if this is something that is an issue that could be down the road.
Now, the proposal comes after Councilor Ron Gibson's home was shot at in April, following the support of a controversial data center proposal. Now, investigators say the suspect also left a note behind saying no data center. Now, committees did acknowledge that this would not stop people completely from being able to find addresses, but they said that this is a step in the right direction. Now, like I said, there is some pushback to this. So coming up at 6:30, you're going to hear from the one counselor on that committee who voted no to this and why he thinks those addresses should still stay public.
All right, we'll check in with you then, Marina. Thank you.
The suspect in a deadly triple shooting in Muncie on Mother's Day is still behind bars this morning.
Ryland Davis made his first court appearance in this case yesterday. We now know he's facing 10 charges, including murder and kidnapping. So the judge entered not guilty pleas for all of those charges and denied a firearm enhancement charge.
13 News talked to a witness at yesterday's hearing. Michael Hennessy tells us he's still reliving the horror that unfolded, even as he tries to get back to his normal life sooner than expected.
PTSD is rough. Other than that, life goes on. Close personal friends jumping me for doing it, telling me I'm going way too early, telling me I need to listen to the doctors.
Well, the suspect here, Ryland Davis, is being held without bail, and he's due in court again on June 29th. The trial date for a man accused of murdering a Beech Grove police officer has now been pushed back more than 3 years. It was during a pre-trial conference yesterday that we learned Kenneth Johnson's attorneys say they've agreed to a new date of September 10th, 2029. Johnson is charged with shooting and killing Officer Brian Elliott, who was responding to a domestic dispute. Another officer was also hurt.
Well, if you drive through Indy's north side, you'll notice the route has changed just a bit.
Yeah, that's because of phase 3 of that Level Up 31 project has started. So Anna Chalker is live with an update on that project, what's closed and what your route might look like. Good morning, Anna.
Good morning, ladies. A lot of changes and maybe a new headache for you when you're heading over here off of 31. You can see it here as people are heading northbound. Got to pass the detour sign to tell you 106th Street exit is closed. You've got a lot of detours you have to follow here. And basically one of those big ones that we mentioned, those southbound lanes coming from Hamilton County, that closure there. But as of yesterday morning, the new addition to this, the off ramps from 465 onto northbound 31. That's what's closed now. And the purpose of this years-long Level Up 31 project is expanding the interchange and to make it safer and more efficient. But with these phase changes has come some fender benders already, one just happening hours after the closing was announced. That's why NDOT says it's best for drivers just to be patient, take your time and slow down, and to pay attention to these new routes.
That interchange alone gets about 100,000 cars a day, so closing it off was really not an option. We always want people to drive safe, especially in construction zones, because we do have workers out here and at times they are just working behind orange barrels.
Now, during this phase 3, northbound 31 will remain open, but it is pretty tricky to navigate, like lanes that are going to be shifting and changing throughout the process. All of this in effect until late fall. With phase 4, that's what's going to be rounding out the project, ending it sometime next year. Now, when you're driving onto 31 or any of these projects, you're probably next to a gas station that has lower gas prices. That's good when you've got to look through all the orange barrels of all of this. But both of these causes from the gas tax suspension, why we've got a longer extension on that, but also a longer project timeline. So coming up, you'll hear from the governor on what that decision is going to look like for some of our future projects when we've got to move forward with this suspension.
Gotta take one with the other, it sounds like, Anna. Thank you.
Well, we do have a foggy start in some areas, but beautiful weather ahead, Matt.
Even if you have some of the fog this morning, Julia, the rest of the day looks really sunny. And will be nice and warm with the low 80s. And a light northeast wind is lowering the humidity. Coming up, we'll let you know how many days of sun we have ahead.
Well, the White House announces a new policy for Americans exposed to Ebola while overseas. How they'll be cared for next.
And believe it or not, NFL preseason kicks off in less than 3 weeks. So at 6:45, no, 3 weeks. I said 3 weeks now. 3 months, guys. At 6:45, we got the latest on the Colts quarterback development.